our communities. I'm going to have Kevin McGowan, Director of Office of Emergency Management,
being recorded.
Lead us through today's meeting and begin with attendance. Kevin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For all of the members, I would request that you unmute your mic while we go through roll call to make this a little bit quicker. Vice Chair Supervisor Solis, are you present?
Present.
Thank you. Supervisor Ridley Thomas?
Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Kuehl? Thank you. Supervisor Hahn?
Here.
Thank you. Member Corey?
Present.
Thank you. Member Wasserman?
Present.
Thank you. Member Inman? Member Flores?
Here.
Thank you. Member DuPont Walker?
Present.
Member Shell? Member Greenberg?
Present.
Thank you. Member Griego? Member Cordero? Member Cordero? Member Neiman?
Yes, present.
Thank you. Member Birdsell?
Present.
Thank you. Member Herrera?
Here.
Thank you. Member Dank?
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Kevin. We are on item number 2, which is approval of previous meeting statement of proceedings. We're going to go on receive and file on that one. So we will move immediately to item number 3, which is a countywide economic outlook briefing. Kevin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my honor today to introduce Bill Allen, the Chief Executive Officer with the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation, to provide a brief remark on our economic outlook. With that, Bill, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, everyone. I want to begin by thanking Chair Barger and all of the county supervisors for the opportunity to address the task force and working group members this morning to help set the context for our work and provide a sense of urgency for the work ahead of us all. Also want to thank all of the members of the task force and working groups for their service to the county at this time. The LADC was created by the county 40 years ago to reside outside the county government as a 501c3 charitable public benefit corporation designed to engage the private sector and the education sector and local city governments to work in partnership with the county to create a more vibrant and globally competitive economy. Today, we're particularly focused on creating not only a more globally competitive and vibrant economy, but one that is more sustainable, inclusive, and resilient. For the past 2 months, every Monday morning at 11 a.m., we've been conducting public webinars on the economic impacts of the pandemic on our region. And this morning, I'm going to share with you just a few highlights from those webinars. All of you should have received a copy of a couple dozen slides our economists at the LADC have prepared to show you the economic impact of the unprecedented steps our federal, state, and local governments have had to take to shut down significant parts of our economy in the interest of public health. We've provided information for you on the industry sectors, occupations, and demographics at highest risk for impact, and how they've been impacted from what data we have available at this time. The industry sectors at highest risk for layoffs include accommodation and food services, retail trade, arts, entertainment and recreation, personal services, construction, manufacturing, wholesale trade, and transportation. These sectors represent hundreds of thousands of our businesses, large and small, which in many cases have seen their very viability as ongoing enterprises threatened. Remember that 93% of our businesses in LA County employ less than 20 workers and tend to have very little capital in reserve to withstand such economic shocks. The occupations include food preparation and serving related jobs, retail sales and related jobs, office and administrative support, personal care and service, transportation and material moving, and healthcare support. These represent the vast majority of the more than 1 million jobs already lost in our county. And all of these occupations I just mentioned have median annual income less than $50,000, leaving the individuals who held these jobs with very little savings to fall back on during such a stressful time. The demographics we have provided you in the slides represent us and our neighbors, the working people of Los Angeles County. Substantially more than 1 million of our neighbors have already filed initial claims for unemployment here in Los Angeles County, and that number continues to rise. Behind each of those numbers is a person, a family, a community impacted by the virus. Please note in those figures that the share of the young adult workforce under the age of 25 are filing for unemployment at a much higher rate than those in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And again, they have very little personal savings to fall back on. A greater percentage of women in the workforce have filed for unemployment than we are seeing in the male cohort in the workforce, largely because they are disproportionately represented in the service industries. A greater share of those in the Asian and Black cohorts in our labor force have filed for unemployment insurance than we see in the white or Hispanic labor cohorts. But I would caution against any assumption that Hispanic or Latino workers have not been disproportionately impacted. They have, because they are so overrepresented in our service industries. It's more likely they've not been filing for all the relief they're entitled to, and we have to do a better job of outreach to ensure they file for the unemployment benefits they deserve. As a people, we have all withdrawn from social and economic activity to help slow the spread of the virus, but for some of us that has come at a far greater cost than others. The data you will see in the slides I have provided you, and I hope you will look them through carefully as you begin your work, show that lower income people of color have been disproportionately impacted by a reduction in their hours or by furloughs or layoffs. This is because they are disproportionately represented in our service industries, which have been most heavily impacted by the shutdown orders. And again, these cohorts of our neighbors tend to have the least individual and family savings with which to withstand the economic shock of loss of income or loss of a job. So our work together in the coming weeks to help get more sectors of our economy and more enterprises within those sectors to reopen, but also to reinvent themselves so as to enhance the safety of their workers and their customers during the ongoing battle with this virus and make themselves more sustainable, more inclusive, and more resilient in the future will be deeply impactful on the lives of more than 1 million of our neighbors. We at the LADC have a great deal more information for you all on the sectors, occupations, and demographics of our labor force available on our website at laedc.org to support your working groups in the weeks ahead. And again, on behalf of all my colleagues, we salute your service, look forward to the ways you will recommend that we not just reopen or restart our economy, but reinvent it so that it can not just recover in the months ahead, but enjoy a true resurgence and real resilience in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill, for the comprehensive report that you provided that's attached to the agenda and for also offering to be a part of some of the sectors. With that, we are going to move to item number 4, which is the preliminary assessment from the task force briefing. This portion of the agenda is going to go in alphabetical order for each sector so that each sector member task force lead can provide 2 to 3 minute brief description of their sector, starting with arts and culture. Mr. Dang, are you available to comment?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Kevin. Chair Barger, Vice Chair Solis, members of the Board of Supervisors, members of the task force, thanks for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the arts and culture sector, where the creative economy contributes nearly 1 in 7 jobs in LA County. We are all anxious to get back to work, but the safety of our staff, our artists, and our audiences is of utmost importance. From conversations with artists, arts and culture leaders, and audience members, the need repeatedly expressed is for clarity, vision, leadership, and guidance from the county and the Department of Health. And this is coming from a sector that is known for its creativity and innovation, and now they look to you for this creativity and innovation. Many organizations have various programming plans at the ready that involve A, no live audience, B, having limited capacity audiences with social distancing, and C, having capacity audiences with stringent health policies in place with your guidance. I look forward to speaking with other sector leaders over many areas of intersection to find common ground and solutions, such as member Ron Herrera, as the arts and culture sector is advancing a new frontier through Zoom performances and other streaming methods, and our performing labor unions need guidance in terms of jurisdiction. Is this stage? Is it film or TV, or is this something totally new? And we needed to put into place protection for our artists, where they must take off their face mask in order to play certain musical instruments, or actors to remove their face masks to perform opposite each other, and protections for our technical design teams who work closely with hair, makeup, and wardrobe. I look forward to speaking with member Linda Griego, as intimate theaters and art galleries are small businesses with many questions regarding social distancing measures, restroom usage, and airflow. I look forward to speaking with member Regina Birdsell, as the majority of arts and culture organizations are also nonprofits. Can there be a single source place where nonprofits can gain access to proper hand sanitizers, masks, and other PPE? I look forward to speaking with member Jeff Schell, as many performing artists and designers work in various mediums, from stage to film and TV to other media, to find consistent solutions to keep them safe as they work from production to production. I also look forward to meeting with the Arts and Culture Sector Work Group representing all 5 supervisorial districts, in particular Kristen Sakota, Director of the Department of Arts and Culture, and Danielle Brazel, General Manager of the LA City Department of Cultural Affairs, and their staff, to create a cohesive plan that we can all follow so that we are all reading off of the same piece of music. The arts have been around for over 2,500 years, the human spirit for longer than that. So we are very confident that the arts and culture sector will remain resilient. We will do this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Dang. I'm going to move to the next business and corporate manufacturing. Member Neiman, do you have comments?
Yes. Good morning, and thank you, Kevin. I'm pleased to represent my fellow committee members in the broader business and manufacturing sector. While we have not yet convened our newly formed committee, I would like to share a bit of perspective formed from many discussions with business owners, employees, and most importantly, working families in LA County. Our sector is ready to reopen and help return LA to full employment. Our sector is ready on a number of fronts, but importantly, I want to emphasize how ready businesses and workers are to do what is necessary to remain safe and healthy in the workplace and avoid COVID-19 outbreaks. Our sector, and I suspect others, are acutely focused on the safety and well-being of their employees and want to reopen in a responsible and thoughtful manner. Our sector is indeed concerned about the health of Los Angeles, but that concern goes well beyond COVID-19. We are concerned about the anxiety and the stress that come with economic uncertainty and unemployment, leading to so many other very real physical and mental health issues. If we reopen soon, most jobs in our county can be saved, along with the tax base that is currently at risk. That will change dramatically with further delays. With every week, there will be hundreds of employers and thousands of jobs that will disappear from Los Angeles, not temporarily, but permanently. With the elimination of so many jobs, we face far more serious physical, mental, and economic health issues. There are a number of areas where our task force can help. While businesses in our sector have been preparing to reopen safely, they remain eager to learn and to understand what other measures can be taken. LA County businesses and workers will benefit from further guidance and leading practices. Our task force and county leaders can provide this guidance and support to help reduce the risk. It will also be important to address higher risk workers, so helping companies think through how best to accommodate these individuals will also be important. Finally, COVID-19 related legal liability and risk of litigation against business represent a significant threat to our sector. Insight on how to best manage this risk will be valuable to businesses. Our sector is ready to reopen and ready to be safer at work. We here today can certainly help that effort. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. Look forward to working with you all.
Thank you, Member Neiman. Next, we will hear from our small businesses. On behalf of Member Griego, Adam Carrillo, are you available to comment? Adam, are you on the line? Okay, we will come back to small.
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, there you go. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, Supervisors, and Task Force members. While Linda and I were able to connect yesterday, we're we are really focused on businesses with 100 and fewer employees, and with special attention to those with 20 or less that represent over 93% of all businesses in LA County. Our work group has proposed a meeting this week, and we anticipate very frequent discussions until our recommendations are finalized. And we do understand, most importantly, there is a very limited window of opportunity to get our small businesses open and to get employees back to work safely. Really, again, it's focused on safely and strategically reopening our small businesses. And as we move forward, we're really trying to identify best areas for our task force to focus on, so we can make these recommendations in a quick and strategic way. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Carrillo. Next is our commodities and goods movement sector. Member Cordero, are you available for comment?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you are good.
Okay, I'm good. Again, I would like to thank the President and Vice President. And again, I welcome the committee to come together on a very important topic with regard to economic resiliency recovery. From the ports perspective and goods movement industry, as many of you know, the ports are an essential operation, and we have remained open. So we are in a rather unique position in that we've been open and moving cargo all along. The goods movement and supply chain, again, is moving cargo in a strong way. Now, however, with regard to recovery, there's a couple of things that, again, we need to keep in mind in terms of how important not only the sector is, but in terms of what we need to do and be supportive of how we move forward to open the economy and recovery here. The impact by the ports, as some of you may know, speaking on behalf of the Port of Long Beach, just with the state of California alone is 700,000 plus jobs. And when you add the San Pedro Bay complex, that's the Port of Los Angeles, and you look to the direct and indirect jobs throughout the nation, it comes in the neighborhood of 16 million. And what this particular sector contributes to the US GDP is roughly around $780 billion. So obviously it's a significant industry to make sure that we not only keep the ports open in an essential operation, but contribute to how we could further the supply chain and the movement of commodities that are so important not only to the state of California, but the nation. So I think at this point, we will be meeting as a committee to discuss issues further. I think initially it's an opportunity for us to strengthen the supply chain and the ability for California not only to raise the level of what we receive in imports, but also more importantly, exports with regard to some important commodities that in the global market are in demand. So with that, again, I look forward to meeting with our subcommittee here in terms of the commodities and goods movement and moving forward to contribute towards this very important topic with regard to economic resiliency. So with that, we'll conclude my comments here, and thank you for the ability to participate on behalf of this industry.
Thank you, Member Cordero. Next up will be the education sector, and then on deck after that will be faith-based organizations. With that, Member Corey, are you available for comment on the education sector?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin, Chair Catherine Barger, the Board of Supervisors, and my peers as sector leads. You know, as a soon-to-be convened education sector work team, we will be focusing on 3 statements as our contribution to the LA County Economic Resilience Task Force. First, we're focusing primarily on higher education, and higher education institutions in LA County are vital and necessary contributors towards the county's economic ecosystem. Second, economic strains on these institutions could be damaging, and in some cases disastrous should these colleges and universities not open in the fall. Third, reopening the county's colleges and universities will require defined and commonly adopted health and safety protocols. This final statement on college and university health and safety protocols will come with specific recommendations to the LA County Economic Resilience Task Force for consideration by the Board of Supervisors. So my belief is that the county's 97 institutions of higher learning, for the sake of their hundreds and hundreds of thousands of students, need guidance to move quickly toward reopening plans. We know the CSUs have decided to go remote in the fall, but many of us are hoping and planning to reopen come September. Last night at Biola University, where I work, we had 500 families of prospective students on a Zoom town hall wanting to know how they should make plans for the fall. So multiply by nearly 100 other LA County colleges and universities. This is a matter of urgency for our county. And unless there is a resurgence of COVID-19, we would like to recommend carefully formulated protocols for reopening higher education institutions in the county, and to do so in a timely way so that our students and their families are not waiting in uncertainty. And unless we can agree on the protocol sooner rather than later, we will be at a competitive disadvantage with colleges and universities outside of the county or state that have already given the green light for reopening. And I believe all sectors in our county will benefit from a soon and safe reopening of these schools, and we will benefit from the soon and safe reopening of other sectors. And I look forward to working with you as other sector leads. So with common sense guidelines supported by Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, we can assure students and their families that they will receive a quality college education with safety and health as our priorities. And as we do, these students, many of them from low-income families or first-generation students or are adult learners, they will be able to receive their college degrees and fulfill their vocational dreams as contributing members to society.
Thank you very much, Member Cordero, or Member Corey. Next, we will be moving to faith-based organizations with Member DuPont Walker, and on deck will be the film, entertainment, digital media, and theme parks. Member DuPont Walker, are you available for comment?
I am. Thank you and good morning, and to the established protocol. Be assured that the faith sector is going to be faithful. We are gratified for the calling out, and we wholeheartedly agree with your wisdom of having a faith-based sector. We believe firmly that we can make a difference in both the coming out and in the norm. Would like to provide some feedback to the presentation of economic data. Economic data is actually missing for the faith community. We know that we have an impact on the broader economy, not so much for job losses because we thrive on strong volunteer core, but our absence and our closure creates a change in spending in conferences and gatherings, gas for traveling to and from, food, goods and services purchased, and donations to the needy. In the Council of Religious Leaders, Roy Weinstein made a recent presentation about the economic impact, and he is in the process of trying to gather more data about how we can quantify that. Our task force looks forward to bringing that forward. As with the other sectors, we have faced issues, challenges, and barriers. First and foremost, remote dealing is a culture shift, and some believe it's tied to denying the mission of the church. However, we are embracing remote service, but it appears to be a serious challenge to the rituals, the use of facilities, even the definition of spirituality. Many of the faith community local congregations had already been trying to close the digital divide. Technology for distance engagement was already in process, but now the COVID-19 situation has caused us to take a look at it more strategically and more efficiently and quickly. We recognize that smartphones are widely in use, but they have not necessarily been used to their full advantage. those continue to be challenges for us. But there are also opportunities. The locations of local churches and faith organizations provides one of the best geographic spreads in the county of Los Angeles. We are also those focused messengers for equity, equality, and justice, and very much in the mix for providing solutions. We are being very strategic about creating new revenue streams. And we believe that the faith community is probably the best weapon this county has for having trusted voices get out key messages. For example, what about testing places? What about education regarding chronic medical and social ills? The eligibility for services when some people are skeptical. And more than anything else in this age, connection and personalized care of the homebound and isolated. We believe that some consideration should be given to faith-based offices in LA County government structure, similar to what's been done in the federal government, that there can be a consistent voice. Survival, that's one of the big ones. Well, there's a difference in the church and local congregations as we enter into this deliberation. Ministry, as we have known it, has been evolving. COVID-19 has created an urgency that was already felt, but in many cases not being implemented. Denominations will continue to provide resources. Independent congregations are being surveyed. What we know and believe at this time is that the sector will come back with a more complete report. It will cross all sectors because truly faith does cross all sectors. That the silo that may have been perceived as being the faith community is gone. That the cross-sector involvement of the faith community, whether we're talking about arts and culture, all the way down to goods and communities, wherever it is, the faith sector has a value to add. And so as we convene our meetings and complete the organization of our task force, we will include that it too has geographic, gender, ethnic and cultural, and the spread that is necessary for the faith community to be the valid and equitable voice in this community. We look forward to working across sectors and to showing ways that the faith sector truly is a part of the economic vibrancy and therefore a part of the economic resiliency plan for Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you, Member DuPont Walker. Next, we're going to hear from the Film, Entertainment, Digital Media, and Theme Parks. On behalf of Jeff Shell, Donna Langley, and Taryn Irwin, are you available for comment?
I am. We are. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the board for allowing me to advocate for our industry. I'm Donna Langley, as you just heard, Chairman of Universal Filmed Entertainment Group. It's my pleasure to be here to speak on behalf of Jeff Shell as CEO of NBC Universal and for the entertainment, film, and leisure sector. Following my remarks, Karen Irwin, President and CEO of Universal Studios Hollywood Theme Park, will speak to a few leisure-specific sector challenges. I will focus on production of film and television. So it's important to note that the entertainment, film, and leisure sector is a unique industry with diverse operations and many job types. Taking a one-size-fits-all approach to how we safely resume operations in this sector would be short-sighted and stymie economic recovery. So to level set, the Motion Picture Association estimated that the film and TV industry directly employs 892,000 people, most of whom are not working today. And this doesn't include the thousands of vendors and small businesses that indirectly support the industry in the region and state. As we just heard, as of May 8th, the unemployment rate in Los Angeles hit 24%, which is 10% higher than the national average. And we can help this number from climbing by modifying county health order and aligning it with the state guidelines that recognize workers supporting the entertainment industries and studios as an essential workforce. The longer production remains shut down, the more full-time industry jobs are in jeopardy of being cut. Without updating the health order, we're at risk of productions moving out of Los Angeles. International production is resuming in the UK, France, Prague, Sweden, Denmark, Iceland, New Zealand, Australia, to name but a few. Los Angeles has the opportunity to be a leader in piloting how to safely resume production. The entertainment industry, as part of this public and private partnership, is developing innovative, creative, and thoughtful ways to safely get back to work. The industry-wide Labor Management Safety Committee Task Force has been developing thoughtful safety protocols for the industry that will be ready within days to facilitate a safe and faster return to production. We're confident that by working across the entertainment industry with all the studios, production companies, unions, and guilds, in partnership with our county supervisors, public health department, and emergency management officers, we can and should resume production very soon in Los Angeles, while still protecting the health and safety of our workforce and the general public. Thank you all for listening, and I'll turn it over to my colleague, Karen Irwin. Thank you. Karen, are you on?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I think I'm on. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, thank you so much, and thank you, Donna. So happy to be here to talk to you all about the theme park industry. As you know, there's a limited number of theme parks in LA County, although as a state of California, it's a very big sector of business. And so we continue to work closely with not only those other businesses, but industry leaders and state associations to ensure that we're working toward standards that are consistent as we plan the reopening of our businesses and have very similar and aligned operating standards. We're also obviously working very closely with our businesses in other states and other countries and watching closely what the industry is doing as they reopened Shanghai Disney, and also in Orlando. Last week, you're probably aware that we started reopening our businesses. We have three theme parks in Florida, in Orlando, started a soft open of those businesses with City Walk last week. And then Disney Springs is anticipated to start opening their location as of tomorrow. So first, let me echo what Donna said about how important it is that we evaluate each business individually with respect to capabilities to open safely within the requirements that are currently in effect. Theme parks are more consistent with outdoor attractions and museums, outdoor shopping centers, and other businesses that are operating and or that are planning to open in phase 2. So I want to talk just a few minutes about Universal Studios Hollywood as the biggest theme park employer in LA County. Universal Hollywood, we have 7,300 team members. Our workforce is very diverse and multi-generational. We closely mirror the demographics of Los Angeles, as a matter of fact. We pride ourselves in investing in our talent, in the talent development and providing opportunities for career mobility. More than 50% of all of our managers began their careers as hourly team members in our parks. And since we closed our park on March 14th, we've retained our full-time staff on payroll. We continue to pay for health and benefits for those few part-time staff that we furloughed. But obviously, this is not a sustainable model indefinitely. The county's roadmap to recovery currently lists entertainment venues under a higher risk category that's reserved for stage 4. Universal Studios Hollywood is a broad entertainment destination with large open spaces and versus a single enclosed venue, and therefore we believe this misrepresents our business. The label ignores the ways we can adapt to operate safely and meet public health mandates. We've undertaken an evaluation of our business model and developed phased reopening that will allow us to safely open the theme park and enable core staff to return to work as soon as possible. We're also taking into account the daily learnings and best practices currently being implemented in those other areas that I spoke to earlier. But we've carefully orchestrated operational enhancements that will ensure physical distancing, appropriate screening, and enhanced sanitation. We believe that we share characteristics with destinations that are being allowed to open now, such as outdoor gardens, museums, and our capability to limit sales to local California consumers through targeted marketing, zip code gated sales, and our ability to manage capacity flow more effectively really allows us to maintain a very safe and controlled environment. We've developed a very detailed plan that we will be sharing with you very shortly at the end of this week or early next. But on behalf of the theme park industry, I would just say really important to keep in mind that we are a very large employer of diverse population, and I think have a unique ability to control and optimize the traffic flow and the safety of our guests. And I thank you for your time and listening today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we will hear from our foundations and nonprofit sector, and then on deck will be healthcare and biosciences. So for the foundations and nonprofits, Member Birdsell, are you available for comment?
I am. Thank you, supervisors, and good morning to my colleagues on the task force. Unlike many of my colleagues, as the number of unemployed grows, the demand for services across the nonprofit sector explodes. And sadly, the number of dollars available to fund that work will be more and more scarce. At the beginning of March in LA County, we had 10,000 nonprofit organizations serving our communities. That is 1 million employees working in our sector. Less than 2% of those organizations have budgets over $10 million, and yet those organizations serve 31% of our state's poorest residents. By the middle of last month, 20% of our colleagues were in the process of shutting down. For the growing number living at or below the poverty level, those life-saving supports will be harder and harder to find, especially in Black and Brown communities who've been living in crisis for decades and are even more vulnerable now. So in order to get back to work, we need to redefine essential services, and we need to redefine urgency. Daycare centers, summer camps, senior centers, all have to be up and running to help parents and adults get back to work. Last week, we polled organizations about their plans for returning to work, and fear is pervasive, from employees worried about working alongside asymptomatic peers to confusing, overwhelming guidance from different experts. Depending on the population they serve, such as small children or the mentally ill, they're not certain how or if they will be able to keep their employees safe. Many more are not sure how they will cover the costs for the infection control practices outlined by the county. While all that is daunting, there have been some positive developments over the last 8 weeks. Efficiencies have emerged and innovation has emerged, as you'd expect in LA County. While technology is not an answer for everyone, we as a sector were surprised in many cases to learn over the past 8 weeks how much could be provided virtually, and we'll need to leverage that brilliant technology sector to expand the impact and reach. On the philanthropic side, over the past few years, there's been better coordination, and that allowed for millions of dollars to come online quickly to invest in recovery. As we look at opportunities, I'm excited to work with my colleagues to also candidly talk about some of the barriers that we in government, we in the nonprofit sector, and in philanthropy have created to just impede progress. And so I look forward to talking with my colleagues, and I look forward to reporting back to you in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Birdsell. Next will be our healthcare and bioscience sector, and on deck will be infrastructure development and construction. So with that, healthcare and bioscience sector, Member Flores, are you available for comment?
Yes, I am. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of our sector, I want to thank the chair and co-chair and our fellow task force member. In our sector, we have not yet convened, but as we prepare, we're actually relying on the fact that since March, we have been in pretty much constant communication. And I wanted to take a minute to just describe our sector, since it's complex as others are as well. Our sector includes hospitals, both public hospitals as well as private hospitals. Most are nonprofit. There are a few for-profit hospitals, and there's some specialty hospitals as well that focus on rehab or cardiac care, et cetera. It includes physicians. There's about 30,000 physicians who have an address in LA County, but about 20,000 provide the bulk of the care in our county. And those include specialty physicians as well as primary care. We also have a large cohort of advanced practice clinicians, such as nurse practitioners, physician assistants, nurse midwives, registered nurses with advanced degrees as well, for example, in diabetes education, and also allied health professionals who staff up our hospitals as well as many of our outpatient clinics. Health plans are part of this, so our plan is to invite health plans to participate in our sector work. Among providers, there's also a subset called safety net providers. Traditionally, these include county clinics as well as private community clinics, often called federally qualified health centers. But there's also a hidden private safety net, which is private practice physicians who dedicate a large part of their practice to the low-income populations, principally Medi-Cal. Our sector also includes other facilities like skilled nursing facilities and long-term care. They've been front and center in this pandemic because they serve high-risk populations. So part of our work will be to understand best practices and spread them across the sector and even in cross-sectoral participation. It includes bioscience and pharmaceuticals. We also have reached out to several of those representatives to help us in our work. It includes education and training institutions, as well as academic medical centers, such as medical schools, such as centers like Cedars-Sinai and others. And it involves community medicine, public health, mental health, and oral health. So that's our sector. In terms of what we will be working on initially, again, as we've convened since March for other purposes, but common cause around the pandemic, is that we need to help our hospitals reopen to continue to do a great job with managing patients with COVID-19 infection, but also be able to now start going back to a new normal, which is doing elective cases and semi-urgent cases, because what we're finding is as we delay the care, an elective case becomes an urgency or even an emergency, and we need to get back to work on that area. It'll also open up the practices of specialists, particularly surgeons and proceduralists who are in partnership with the hospitals to be able to provide those services. Other components that we will be looking at is expansion of telehealth services and making sure that it's sustainable long-term, and looking at ways to help our safety net providers. And lastly, we want to contribute to the thinking in our task force, which is how do we evaluate the impact of the CARES Act and the other legislation previously passed around COVID-19. Could we have done a better job of distributing those dollars? We see a lot of the larger organizations benefiting from the CARES Act, but we're hearing, for example, small business not being able to participate equally on that. And also, how can we use that information to plan ahead for the HEROES Act and how that should be implemented? And then finally is really looking at cross-sectoral collaboration. We know that as healthcare sector, we need to lead out on safe reopening of businesses, starting with our own, but it also means learning from what others have done that will be useful to all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Flores. Next, we will hear comments from the Infrastructure Development and Construction Sector, Ms. Inman, or Member Inman, and on deck will be Labor Sector. Member Inman, are you available for comment?
Yes, good morning. Delighted to participate. So our team, Infrastructure Development and Construction, we will be getting our group together later this week, but I think for all of us in terms of infrastructure, there's a proven track record, long-term, of the short-term, mid-term, and long-term benefits that we can collectively do by focusing on the infrastructure projects. So First task we're going to be doing is really inventorying of our partners, whether it's our ports, our transportation partners, our public works, our utilities, communication partners, and really try to develop a dashboard of those projects that are already queued up. We're ready to go, and what can we do to really make sure that we focus on delivering those. I think on the construction side, our construction has been deemed essential, so we've been able to illustrate that we can safely and effectively proceed. So I'm confident that our construction sector will be able to support these projects. We'll try to be out front and identify if there are shortages, if the supplies. We'll work with our logistics partners to see if we have hiccups in any of our subs to make sure that we can keep those projects moving. I think on the development side, clearly complicated, the lack of consumer confidence is a big hiccup on the development side. So to the extent we can do whatever we can do to kind of ending this spike in unemployment and get us all back to norm. So we'll be working with all of our other partners, whether it's in higher ed, if there are any construction projects that are queued up and ready to go through various auxiliary funding sources. Then I think also on the hope that there is a federal infrastructure investment, clearly we'll make sure that all of our partners are rallied and we're well represented so that we can deliver on those. And I think for our team, what I would like to suggest is embracing the Federal Highways Program, which is labeled Every Day Counts. And I think that sense of urgency for all of us, whether it's providing broadband communication, looking at our housing gaps, all of those things that we can do collectively together. And then in the federal highways, it really looks at the innovation. So I'm hoping that as we do this work, we'll all collectively come together and make sure that we are innovating wherever we can. So look forward to working with our team and all of the rest of the task force members, because I think there's lots of crossover we can do together.
Thank you, Member Inin. Next, we'll hear comments from the labor sector, Member Herrera, and on deck will be restaurants and hospitality. Member Herrera, any comments?
Yes, thank you. And thank you to the co-chairs as well as the supervisors and my fellow task force members and the staff. I want to thank you all for allowing labor to be at the table. It shows a lot of respect. We're looking forward to working as a team member, and certainly we're not going to be a deterrent in energizing the economy in the county. I think that the road to success to recovery is building collaboratives like this and folks working together in different sectors. In labor, we have two distinct sectors. We have people that are working right now. They've identified them as essential. And obviously we have folks that are on layoff and on unemployment, and which will become essential. But with that, we're trying to, fight the transmission of this disease with one sector, and then fight poverty on the other. So we are a wide range spectrum. Definitely, we go from home care to child care to, drivers and teachers and cooks in the schools. So we have a difficult task, to say the least. But what we've done is we've focused on worker safety, as well as subsistence for those workers that are laid off. And, basically our theme is, how do we help workers? And if we've learned anything through this pandemic, we've learned that vulnerable workers don't enjoy equal equity. And that's something that we want to focus on. California is one of the richest states, but also, in contradiction of that, it's one of the poorest states. But right now, we started out concentrating on PPE for, our workplaces, our healthcare workers, our grocery workers, the workplace Bill of Rights was important to us. But in parallel, food was a basic necessity. And we've been for the task force to know, we've fed upwards of about 150,000 people. But in real time, it's about protecting worker and restricting and eliminating the transmission. That's our goal of this virus. And how do we do that? We think we do that through a concerted effort of business and labor jointly, possibly health and safety committees, restrictive, rules that we work on together. Pace of work is definitely going to be affected, but the county really needs to regulate some of the current safety rules. So we're excited, as I said, to be on this board, and labor is going to do everything in the short term, midterm, and long term to move this county to be the premier county in the nation. We believe that we have to be transformative and create a new dialogue. But it's for workers, it's all about sharing of the economics. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Herrera. Next, we'll have comments from the restaurants and hospitality sector, followed by sports and large venue entertainment. Restaurants and hospitality sector, Member Greenberg, are you available for comment?
Yes, I am. Thank you. And thank you, everybody on the call. I'll try to keep my comments brief. As Bill Allen pointed out earlier, our food sector is kind of the highest risk, and we also have amongst the most vulnerable population, and it's a large employment base that we have. Over half of restaurants right now are closed outright, and on a preliminary survey basis of independent restaurants that was just done over the weekend here in the county, 80% jobs have been lost, most again of the more vulnerable, lower paid folks. And I'm speaking just to restaurants now. Hospitality is part of this as well, but our team will be getting together in the hospitality part. We'll catch up to what we're talking about here on the restaurant sector. But I want to just say one thing, basically, is that with that intro of where we are, or preamble of where we are, in order to get restaurants open, we have a fundamental disconnect between the guidelines that are currently being contemplated or protocols for social distancing versus the reality of the economics of the restaurant business. Said simply, restaurants will not reopen dining rooms based on the current thinking, but there is or are practices in other parts of the world that suggest there could be different protocols for social distancing that can keep people safe and get the restaurants open. So that's the big issue for us. And I just want to keep it at one thing, which is the fundamental disconnect between restaurant economics and the desire and need to get people back to work. So that's going to be a focus for the restaurant sector. And I'm told by the hospitality folks that have now joined my team that that is also the case on the hospitality side. So I look forward to, over the coming weeks, sharing more information, but wanted to just put the big issue, if you will, for our sector on everybody's minds to be thinking through. And again, thank you for the time, everybody here on the call today.
Thank you, Member Greenberg. And our final sector report will be from the sports and large venue entertainment sector. Member Wasserman, are you available for comment?
I am, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Look, I'll keep it short. Obviously, you heard a lot of the same consistent themes from each of the task force leaders. Sports is unique in a little bit in that while not ideal, it's an event that can take place, maintain a portion of its economic impact in a fanless or customerless environment. And I'm disappointed that LA is not partaking in that surge today. You've seen, you're going to see every sports league play without fans here in the next 30 days around the world. You're going to see some leagues try and finish their 2019-20 seasons or start or complete, frankly, their entire 2020 seasons in a localized environment and LA is not in the consideration set, and that's a big miss and a big opportunity lost for LA. You know, LA has every facility, every piece of infrastructure, every medical resource, every hospitality resource to be taking advantage of those opportunities, and they're all going to go to Vegas, Texas, probably in Florida. And that's not even talking about the economics, which don't forget that all athletes are taxed in the domicile they compete in. So having 12 NHL teams or 30 NBA teams or the like competing in Southern California and California would be a significant revenue stream. The sports sector also, given the facilities are essentially all privately owned and operated, they have a real incentive to operate at the highest possible level. I believe that we should be pushing to be a leader in the country for limited fan participation at events, not just fanless events. I think there's ways that can be managed very appropriately and effectively. I think we should be at the forefront of that. It's too significant an opportunity, too significant an economic impact in very much like the theme park, in an environment that can be incredibly controlled. You can control where people sit, how they move, how they come into a facility, how they leave a facility, what they do in that facility, what they wear in that facility in a much more regulated way than other environments. I would like Los Angeles to be a leader. It's that infrastructure, that base is how we got the Olympics. It's why we have more sports teams probably than any county on earth. And what we should be taking advantage of. And those businesses can not only be a beacon of energy and excitement for our community, but they can also be an example of what coming back to work looks like and what being responsible businesses look like. And so I'm hopeful that our group will push quite aggressively to have our businesses open, certainly without fans, because that's going to be standard operating procedure and already is. But more importantly, to lead the way in the sports industry on a modified fan basis in the short term, and ultimately back to full capacity as soon as it's practical.
Thank you, Member Wasserman. And thank you to all the members for your very thoughtful comments. We did receive one public comment for this item from Rudy Espinoza. Now moving to item 5, sector-specific framework, and out of an abundance of time management, I'm going to make these remarks very quick. Attached to the agenda was a framework. The overarching goal of the framework is to be a starting point for each of the sectors. The focus of the framework is on short-term, medium-term, and long-term recommendations for each of the sectors, and it's attributed to specific dates, June 2nd, June 16th, and June 30th for report backs from the task force. The framework also provides guidance and really is the opportunity for now the sectors to engage with all of the different members within the sectors to start building out those short-term, medium-term, and long-term recommendations. Following all of the task force meetings, we'll also be able to convene within sectors at the lead of each sector and the task force members. And so with that, I will hand it to the chair. Chair Barger, do you have any comments related to item number 5?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank each and every one of our sector representatives for really highlighting not only the fact that we're at a critical junction, but also the fact that they understand the need to be cautious, but yet they recognize the ability to reopen in a way that is going to protect the population. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for being so succinct and really outlining just how critical each one of your sectors is to LA County. And when I look and hear from people each and every day, I realize that we are at a turning point as it relates to the economy in LA County and the urgency to move with caution, but yet urgency as it relates to working with our small businesses. And as Bill Allen pointed out, many of the people impacted are earning over less than $50,000 a year and are the most vulnerable population that LA County deals with. So I hear you loud and clear. And I really do believe, as far as I'm concerned, if we move forward in a cautious way and work with all of our sectors, I do believe that the dates that you've outlined, Kevin, are achievable, and that we could be discussing opening many of these before the 4th of July weekend. And that is my hope as the sectors bring forward their recommendations. So with that, Supervisor Solis, would you like to make comments? And then I'll go down the board with each board member if you'd like to say something.
Yes, I'll be brief. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And I want to thank all the task force members. Great presentation. Was very excited to read about the LAEDC report. And I hope people use that as kind of a basis to also spur discussion. I think it really is a good picture in terms of what we're facing here in the county through all segments of our society, whether it's education, healthcare, entertainment, workforce development, and safety for our employees. I think all of that can be deciphered through different lenses, and I'm really appreciative of the work and want to thank our own staffs for working and look forward to this very ambitious proposal. I too have a sense that we can move through this cautiously, expeditiously, but always having the safety and protection and health related components in place so that people will have that sense of how can I say, credibility in what we're doing and know that we're protecting them as best we can. So thank you all. Thank you for the opportunity to be on this. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go in order now. Supervisor Ridley Thomas, Supervisor Kuehl, and Supervisor Hahn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the insights of the respective sectors and those who represented those sectors effectively speak for themselves in terms of the seriousness of what's before us and how broad and deep we have to go. I think the impact of COVID-19 on our economy is undeniably profound on a scale and depth that perhaps had been, shall we say, unimaginable, but here we are. I mean, you think about 1 million unemployment claims filed in March and April. Just in LA County alone is just mind-boggling in some respects, and these job losses are real in terms of being across the board industry sectors, and we've heard that from our respective presentations this morning. I think lower income families struggling before COVID-19 are paying more than 50% of their income for housing is not to be ignored, because that's been further exacerbated. It's not lost on any of us in terms of the disproportionality as it relates to communities that are traditionally defined as underserved or disadvantaged, and many of those communities being communities of color. We have a task on our hands. So the task force, as it considers its strategies for reopening and reimagining, can and should do great work. I'm encouraged by what I've heard this morning, Madam Chair, and we need to do more. Public and private sector engagement will make a qualitative difference in terms of outcomes here. And so I'm pleased that the bioscience sector is weighing in, because it proved itself to be the most resilient against the backdrop of the Great Recession. Well, we know that we're well beyond the Great Recession, and we'll see now how bioscience comes forward. But it's not simply limited to that. Some of the more traditional spaces that need to be reinvigorated in terms of the creative economy, all about that. And so I'm just pleased to be here and to participate and help construct a much brighter future that's ahead of us in Los Angeles. And may that future begin with a sense of equity that couples with prosperity. Equity, I say, Madam Chair, because ultimately That's what we need to do and be better at. If we do that, I think the quality of life for all Angelenos will be more of what we wish for it to be rather than not. Thanks for the opportunity to participate.
Thank you. Supervisor Kuehl.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My thanks as well to all of our work group leaders from our Baker's Dozen of work groups, and for all those who put this together, and for the materials that we've received. I think we are deeply, deeply aware of the many problems, deep economic and life-threatening problems created by this pandemic. And indeed, it is in trying to balance the life-threatening aspect of the pandemic, the ability to appropriately respond to it in terms of healthcare and everything that's needed, and the devastation of all areas in our economic sectors that really has led us to ask your help with doing this. I think it's also important to understand as we go along that we really want to know how you can plan to recover and reopen responsibly, but that you also understand that to some extent the county's hands are not fully untied, I'll say it that way, because I'm sure you all read that the governor has issued slightly easier guidelines for counties to meet before they can do many of the things that you're talking about recommending that we do, but we still have to meet those guidelines, and those are really sort of health issues. Have we had this fewer deaths? I mean, it's all set out in terms of numbers. Are we testing enough people? Have we had fewer new cases, etc., before we're even allowed to think about things like in-restaurant dining, etc. So I think it's really good for our work groups to be aware of those limitations, but not to be held back by them in terms of articulating the best ways to move forward, because I have no doubt that we will meet the guidelines for our health measurements that the governor needs, and given permission, we will work with you to move forward on bringing this economy back. So I thank you so much for your work and your participation, and I thank my colleagues for everything that they've been doing all along. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Hahn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And gosh, thanks everybody. Just sitting here listening to each and every one of you as the spokesperson for your sector has been really revealing, eye-opening, and inspiring. You all are amazing. The fact that you're taking the time to actually be on this task force is impressive. I learned a lot just listening to each of you this morning. You know, I am more and more concerned about how quickly we can begin to reopen the sectors, because I'm so concerned that the longer we stay closed in certain sectors, particularly the small business, restaurants, the odds being that they will never reopen. I'm hearing daily of restaurants that just have not been able to survive and will not reopen. So besides people temporarily thinking they have lost their jobs, they may not have a company to go back to. They may not have the restaurant to go back to. And I'm more concerned of what happens then. So I know the small businesses, the restaurants, they've been the hardest hit. Many of them were not able to reinvent themselves for curbside pickup or takeout. So I really hope that we can move quickly in having guidelines that we can adhere to begin opening some of these restaurants and small businesses. I worry about our nail salons and our barbershops and our hair salons. Many of these have very few people that are actually employed at the particular place, and they're also being hard hit. I want to make sure that You know, for instance, in the film industry, we know that the governor's appointed me to sit on the film commission. So hopefully if there's a recommendation that the film commission could actually make to the governor, I think that would be an important connection to make. And I think you should do that. Casey, I really loved hearing you talk about the opportunities that we have in the sports/entertainment world. You're absolutely right. We have more teams in LA County. We have the facilities that are already built and could perfectly support fanless entertainment and sporting events. I have to be more convinced, and maybe that's something you could do, is to teach me on how a fanless event supports the economy. I mean, certainly for the teams and those who are employed just with the teams, the pit crew at NASCAR, but how does it broadly impact our economy by having fanless events? But I'm totally in favor of it. Again, I'm listening to all of you. I just feel like we have to get to the point where we learn to live with the virus. Until we have a vaccine that can prevent you from getting it, until we have a therapeutic drug that has been approved that can treat you if you get it, we can't stay locked down forever, and we have to learn to live with it. My hope for each and every one of you is that, you know, but in this task force, you will bring forth real plans for reopening your sector, not just ideas, not just philosophies, but real plans that our Director of Public Health can look at and agree with and sign off on, and then we can make the case to the governor. Because I think we have a bigger chance of reopening if each and every one of you has a real plan to mitigate the public's safety. And that's what I urge you to do quickly. Every day that we don't reopen, I'm worried that certain sectors will never reopen. So again, thanks for your work. I'm on your side. I think we have to move quickly though, because every day someone's out of work, every day a business is not reopened, it's killing our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate each one of my colleagues' comments. And given the fact that LA County is the largest county in the state of California and probably drives much of the economy, we do have a story to tell. And what the sectors are saying is that we can do this if we work together, recognizing the guidelines. And I'm confident, based on what I'm hearing and what I've seen from a few sectors, that if we set a goal and recognize that goal, even July 4th, I think would be a laudable goal for all of us, recognizing that many of the industries feel that they are prepared to act now. We can get this done, and I'm confident that Governor Newsom will work with us. And I hear from my colleagues loud and clear that we are all in this together and are going to support each and every sector in order to bring LA County back to great place that it was pre-COVID-19. So with that, I appreciate all the comments that were just made. Kevin?
Thank you, Chair. The last item of note is number 7, which is public comment. We did receive comment from the following individuals: James Crampert, Jeff Peterson, Sheila Levin, and Rudy Espinoza. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Chair, for adjournment.
Okay, so again, thank you, everybody. Please note that the next meeting of the Los Angeles County Economic Resilience Task Force will be held remotely on June 2nd, 2020. And please let us know, to all the sector leaders, if you need anything. We are here to support you and make sure that you get all the information you need in order to bring forward your recommendations. So with that, again, I thank each and every one of you for participating today. This concludes today's meeting.
This meeting is no longer being recorded.